It's night 8 on Millennials vs Gen Z, and at the Millennials tribe, everyone settles into camp after voting out Renee. Natalia tells everyone she learned a lot about them after this latest vote, and in confessional, Natalia says she's all alone now. Losing her best friend out here is the worst thing ever, even worse than getting voted out because now she has to spend her time in the jungle without a single person she can trust. It's going to be hell for her on this tribe since nobody is gonna want to work with her. Jed then asks Natalia if she wants to go chat before bed, but she tells them she's going to bed and would rather talk in the morning. It's day 9, and at Gen Z, Bobby, Caitlin, Laura, and Christine are out and about. Bobby then tells the other 3 that she adores their girls group and she doesn't mind Henry and Phil either. Caitlin says she trusts them 100% and Laura says she's just happy to be surrounded by people who care for her. Those first few days were rough. In confessional, Bobby says she's sitting pretty right now with 2 idols in her pocket. She still can't believe she has 2. Apparently, they are supposed to be hard to find, so it's as if she just found 2 separate $50 bills laying on the street. How rare is that? Especially on the same day. Caitlin then says she feels like from the 3 people on the bottom, Griff is the biggest wild card, so he'd need to go next. Bobby says she feels the same, and Laura adds that she can sense a lot of distaste in Griff's mouth towards her for some reason. In confessional, Caitlin says she's prioritizing her alliance with Laura, Bobby, Christine, Sam, Henry, and Phil. They are very strong together, and in this game, you need strong allies to make it deep. That leaves Griff, Casey, and Denisha on the outs of this tribe, and as of right now, Griff is set up to be the next to go if this tribe loses another immunity challenge. Denisha meanwhile talks to Phil alone, asking him if he knows of any big alliances at the moment on this tribe. Phil says he doesn't know of anything solid at the moment, at least from his own perspective. In confessional, Denisha says she's trying to work out what this tribe's dynamic is truly like since she feels left out from the last vote of Gabe. Phil is someone she wants to pull the truth out of since he seems like the type to spill some tea on the regular. Phil then tells Denisha he's not that paranoid right now about his safety because firstly, this tribe is great at immunity challenges, and secondly, there are still some obvious vote-offs if this tribe were to go to another tribal council. Laura and Griff are those people who would be voted out next. Denisha then says she's totally fine with that, as long as she's safe, and Phil assures her she shouldn't worry about anything. Later on at camp, Griff sits by himself in the shelter and watches everyone else interact with each other. In confessional, Griff says he feels like he's the next to go at this point since he has been observing closely who is talking with who. Casey is supposed to be on the bottom with him after last vote, but even he is starting to socialize a lot with the people who ended up blindsiding Gabe. These same people are the ones claiming they are not in an alliance. Sure. Griff then later finds Caitlin alone, asking her if they can chat, so she tells him she has nothing else better to do. Griff then lets her know he feels like he's on the bottom and he doesn't know if she too is on the bottom or not, but he's assuming she is. Caitlin then says she doesn't feel like anyone but Casey is on the bottom, and Casey himself admitted to everyone he felt that way. Griff then says he wouldn't mind if Casey was the target since he's trying really hard to get into some sort of majority. He's always spending time with Christine and Henry. In confessional, Caitlin says that Griff is still unaware what's going on with this tribe's divide, which is crazy to her. He thinks she's on the bottom, which is way off. He also thinks Casey is working his way into a majority alliance, which is also wrong. Maybe she gave Griff too much credit as this so-called strategic thinker. Back on the Millennials tribe, Nick and Jed chat alone, and Nick says he feels relatively good right now about their survival chances. Natalia is on the bottom, which is perfect for them right now. Jed agrees and says it gives them time to intrude that group of 4 of Rhea, Kendi, Lydia, and Omar. If they aren't working with Natalia, they need to find a crack in that 4. In confessional, Jed says that their preference is to work with anyone but Lydia. She's the mastermind on this tribe controlling votes. Lydia is probably after them as well, which is a huge problem, so it's best to try and work with Rhea, Kendi, or maybe even Omar. Jed later talks with Rhea and Kendi, asking them if they feel like there's enough trust within the group of 7 to vote out Natalia next, and Rhea says she doesn't know yet because they only recently came together for the Renee vote. In confessional, Kendi says he feels like there's 2 different paths for him to take. He can stay in the background and follow Lydia and Omar, or he can decide to forge his own path and work with some new faces. Kendi then asks Jed who they currently have in their own trust circle, and Jed says they want to trust Nick and Andy, especially since Nick has their tribe's idol. Rhea and Kendi go quiet, and Jed confirms it's true. Nick has the Millennials tribe idol. In confessional, Rhea says she thought she misheard Jed at first, but they just exposed a huge secret that nobody else knew of. Not only is it concerning that Jed spills secrets with ease, but it's terrifying to know that Nick has a powerful tool in his hands. Rhea then asks Jed if they think Nick will share this idol between all the Millennials in a swap, and Jed says it depends if he feels like this tribe is loyal enough to him. However, Nick wouldn't use it against this group's best interest, that's for certain. After the conversation with Jed, Rhea and Kendi walk and talk, and Rhea says she doesn't feel good about Nick having the idol. It's even more worrying that Jed actively wants to align themselves with Nick and Andy still. Kendi agrees and asks if maybe they should spill this information to Lydia and Omar, and Rhea says that's probably their safest move right now. In confessional, Rhea says she feels like the Inner Knot Alliance deserves to know this idol information, especially if it'll eventually become public knowledge anyway since Jed has a big mouth. Rhea and Kendi then chat with Omar, Lydia, and Natalia at camp, and Rhea tells them all that Nick has this tribe's idol according to Jed. Natalia's jaw drops, and Omar says he's honestly surprised. Rhea then says they need to break up that trio between Nick, Andy, and Jed because they are going to team up from now on, and having the idol in their hands is extremely dangerous to the rest of them. From the sounds of it, they want Natalia gone first and then they'd go after Lydia and Omar. Lydia smirks in reaction to that, and in confessional, Lydia says she doesn't understand what game Nick and Andy are playing. It's like they are musical chairs where each round they sit somewhere new. She thought they trusted her, but now she's learning they want her gone. She worked hard to make sure they stayed last round, but now she's realizing that may have been a massive mistake for her. Omar then tells the group that they have the numbers over those 3. They can also still play around Nick's idol if they convince him not to use it. Nick and Andy suddenly walk into camp, and Nick asks them all what's going on. Natalia then sighs and says she's going to leave, so gets up and goes. Nick then asks the rest why Natalia is being shady, and Lydia says that Natalia tried pitching her case to stay just now, but none of them are giving in to her tactics. So, she's visibly upset now and doesn't want to talk to anyone. Nick then says she can try all she wants, but at the end of the day, she's poison to this tribe. She will flip on all of them in a tribe swap and merge. In confessional, Nick says his ideal move next tribal council is to vote out Natalia because the 2 of them are after each other ever since her and Renee decided to flip on their little alliance. If he can send her home, that leaves 7 Millennials who are strong and united against the Gen Z, which could be great for a swap. It's now night 9, and Natalia gets up out of bed and walks into the jungle alone. Omar then gets up as well and lets the entire tribe know that Natalia is idol hunting. Lydia then asks if anyone here has the idol, and then Andy says that they should probably go look just in case nobody has it here. In confessional, Omar says that his alliance with Kendi, Rhea, and Lydia came up with a plan to make Nick, Jed, and Andy feel comfortable with their 7-person crew. They told Natalia to get up in the middle of the night and pretend to search for a non-existent idol, so now it seems like she's paranoid for her own safety. This means Nick will be less incentivized to use his idol if they were to go to another tribal council. Meanwhile in the jungle, Natalia sits on the ground and says she is not going to walk around if her job is already done. In confessional, Natalia says that she may as well get an actress award because she already knows Nick, Andy, and Jed are convinced she's the next to go. Little do they know, they are the ones in true danger. Hopefully no one finds her while she gets a little bit of rest. That includes the bugs out here because the last thing she needs is for a snake to bite her ass and get her evacuated from this jungle. It's now day 10, and both tribes arrive at the challenge mats. Justin then confirms that the Millennials voted Renee out at their last tribal council. He then asks for the Gen Z's immunity statue back, so Christine returns it. Justin then confirms they are playing for immunity today. In this, everyone's feet will be perched on 2 ledges, and their goal is to stay up for as long as possible. The tribe that still has at least 1 member in the challenge when the other tribe fully drops will win immunity, safe from tribal council. The losers will head to tribal council and vote out the 5th person from this game. Everyone is now set up for the challenge, and the players sitting out from Gen Z are Phil and Bobby. The challenge is now officially on, and everyone seems to either feel comfortable or in pain right off the bat. Nick screams in pain already, and then he jumps off 20 seconds into this challenge. Casey then jumps without warning for Gen Z, meaning both tribes are now down to 7 members each. Henry begins groaning in pain for his tribe while the other 6 are strong. As for the Millennials, Natalia starts to struggle alongside Andy and Rhea. Rhea then hops off, and not too long after, Natalia does as well. Andy begins shaking but tries his best to stay on, while Jed looks extremely solid for their tribe. Lydia then unexpectedly falls down, and Andy does soon after. Millennials are now down to just Jed, Omar, and Kendi, while Gen Z still has 7 members. Henry continues to groan in pain, but Caitlin yells out to Henry to hang in there for them. 6 minutes pass in this challenge, and Omar and Kendi both start to shake in pain for the Millennials while Henry is the only one shaking on Gen Z. Kendi then drops for Millennials, leaving just Jed and Omar fighting for their tribe. Another few minutes pass in this challenge, and Omar decides to drop out next. Jed is now the only one remaining in this challenge for the Millennials while Gen Z still has 7 of their 8 members. Griff begins readjusting himself a few times, and Henry starts to settle down. Jed meanwhile continues looking solid, and Natalia comments how she feels like she's gonna throw up at this point. Another 15 minutes pass, and Henry tells his tribe he can't do it anymore, but Sam tells him to just hang on a bit longer. Henry then asks if they all have it in them to outlast the other tribe, and Caitlin tells him he can jump off if he really has to. Henry then continues to stay on and says he'll try to stick it out, but he doesn't have much left in him. Suddenly, Jed drops out of nowhere on the Millennial side, meaning Gen Z win immunity in a complete landslide. The Millennials look embarrassed and unfazed after their performance, and Jed tells the tribe they just felt a huge cramp in their left leg. Back on the mats, Justin invites Gen Z up for their immunity statue, so Sam heads up to grab it. Justin then confirms that Millennials will head to Tribal Council tonight where one of them will be the 5th person voted out of Millennials versus Gen Z. With that, they all begin making their way to camp, and in confessional, Nick says he's ready to execute this plan to vote out Natalia and move forward with the 7 remaining Millennials. Natalia was going to be a huge problem for them anyway, so they may as well vote her out now assuming there's some sort of tribe swap coming up tomorrow. Back at the Millennials camp, the mood is very neutral after the challenge loss, and in confessional, Natalia says she's trying so hard not to smile from ear to ear right now because Nick, Andy, and Jed are so confident she's going home tonight. Little do they know, one of their asses is going, and it's going to be Nick with the idol still in his possession. Lydia, Omar, and Rhea have their inner not alliance meeting, and Rhea asks if they are going to keep Natalia tonight and flush Nick's idol. Lydia says yes since it is evident that Nick, Andy, and Jed aren't loyal to the rest of them. They are going to play for themselves going forward. The big question now is which of the 3 they take out. Omar then says he feels like if Nick does get paranoid tonight, he will use the idol on himself, which would ruin this whole plan. In his eyes, this vote needs to be for either Jed or Andy. Rhea then says she personally likes the idea of taking out the smartest one in that 3, which is Andy. He's also more level-headed than Jed, which could be a problem down the road. He'll be harder to take out. In confessional, Rhea says she prefers to take out Andy tonight since Jed is easier to pry information out of. Jed literally exposed an idol they shouldn't have exposed in the first place, so their loose lips are actively tanking their own game. Nobody is going to want to work with a player like that. Andy is much more adaptive. At camp, Andy asks Natalia if she has any fight left in her, and Natalia straight up says no. She knows her time is up tonight, so she's mentally out of this game right now. Andy then asks if she is voting Nick tonight, but she says she doesn't know. In confessional, Andy says he doesn't want to become a paranoid player if he shouldn't be paranoid, but Natalia's odd calmness makes him think there's something going on beyond just a simple vote. Maybe Natalia knows she's actually safe tonight, which of course then leads to the question of how and why. Andy then goes to Nick and Jed, letting them know he feels like something is off with Natalia. She's acting way too calm right now. He'd expect her to fight to stay. Nick tells Andy they have the votes to take Natalia out no matter what. Rhea and Kendi are locked in with the three of them. Lydia and Omar can't do anything about it. Jed backs this, claiming that they spoke to Kendi and Rhea yesterday and they were very comfortable turning on Lydia and Omar after tonight. Nick then says they need to stick to this Natalia plan to keep that trust with Kendi and Rhea, and Andy says he'll go with it if that's what they think is going on. At camp, Lydia and Rhea join Natalia, and Lydia fills Natalia in that the vote is Andy tonight. Natalia says that's fine with her. He tried getting information out of her just earlier, but she didn't say anything. She pretended like she came to terms to the fact that she's going home tonight. In confessional, Lydia says she's thinking many days ahead in this game, so while the simple thing for tonight is to put 5 votes onto Andy, she needs to think of an escape plan in case Nick's idol gets used on Andy. Lydia and Omar later chat, and Lydia tells him to hear her out with what she's about to suggest. Omar says he's listening, so Lydia explains that of course he's her number 1 out here and Rhea is both of their number 2s. In order to ensure no one from In or Not goes tonight, they might need to control Nick's idol in the best way possible. If Nick ever gets suspicious, he will play that idol and it wouldn't make sense for him, Andy, and Jed to even vote Natalia anymore. They'd probably attack their In or Not or vote for Kendi. In that case, it might be wise to tip them off that Jed is trying to flip tonight's vote on them. Omar says this is a very risky plan to pull off, but Lydia says this is how superfans need to play Survivor. They need to work every single angle, not just one side. In confessional, Lydia says she needs to set herself up in the best position possible. Nick and Andy need to trust her tonight so that they don't get any ideas and try to vote her out. Nick and Andy need to vote for Jed tonight so that Jed gets idled out if the idol is used correctly. Omar then asks Lydia if they'll tell the 2 guys that Jed is voting for Andy, but Lydia says they can tell them that Jed is going for Nick. Therefore, if the idol is used, at least the votes will still land on Andy. Jed meanwhile talks to Natalia, letting her know that they've been thinking a lot lately about the vote. Natalia asks them what they mean by that, and Jed says they feel like voting her out doesn't make sense for their own game. Everyone else is voting her out. Natalia says she knows, so Jed asks her why she's giving up so easily. Natalia then tells Jed that she doesn't know why they care so much about her in the first place. Jed responds and says they felt like her and Renee were way closer to each other and that Renee did not trust anyone but her. In confessional, Natalia says that while she's going along with this plan to blindside Jed, Andy, and Nick, it's still a concern to her that these people could be lying to her and they might just vote her out unanimously. If she's the one going home, she doesn't want to look like a fool on national television. She may as well go out swinging and look smarter than just some sheep on its deathbed. Natalia then asks Jed where she should plant her vote tonight, and Jed says they'll try to get Nick and Andy to trust them on this vote tonight and gun for Lydia. Natalia asks if they are sure it'll work, and Jed says they can convince Nick to play his idol on her to prevent a scenario where they go to rocks. Nick's idol is going to make him into a bigger target after this if he keeps it, so he may as well use it tonight. Natalia says that sounds like it makes sense to her, so she'll put her vote onto Lydia. Jed then squints and asks Natalia why she seems like she already knew about this idol, but Natalia says she's honestly just phased out at the moment. She didn't know about it. In confessional, Jed says they feel a bit bad for Natalia because they are lying right to her face about tonight's vote. This setup is necessary in the case she has some hidden immunity idol nobody knows about. It'll result in Lydia going home, which would still be a great outcome for their game. Plus, even if Natalia still goes home with 7 votes, the 1 vote for Lydia will hopefully spook her so she starts watching her back a little more. Her cockiness might end up as her downfall down the road. Lydia and Omar chat with Andy and Nick, and Lydia tells the 2 guys that they aren't in trouble tonight regardless of what she's about to say. Basically, Jed is trying to flip this vote onto Nick, but again, nobody is buying into that crap. Nick squints and Andy says he knew something felt off about today. Lydia then explains they need to vote for Jed to make sure Jed's plan backfires. Omar then clarifies that they both know about Nick's idol through Jed. Jed tried using that information as a weapon against the 2 of them. Nick says wow out loud, and in confessional, Nick says he knew Jed was a rat in this game, but not this big of one. It's crazy how Jed's logic works in this game. They don't know what loyalty means. They just flip-flop every other round. Next thing you know, Jed might try working with Gen Z in the swap. Andy then asks if there's even a reason for Nick to play the idol tonight, and Omar says they can't let the vote tie. Rhea, Candy, Jed, and Natalia are all voting for Nick. Nick then says he can't believe he's so behind on everything going on, and Omar says it's fine because they can fight back as a 4. If they take out Jed, they are suddenly in a majority of 4. Andy then says he's good with this plan then if it means they'll regain control of this tribe. Omar says that's great, so he'll go run off now so they don't look too suspicious to the others. Omar then leaves, and Nick sits down on the ground, trying to understand everything that's going on. Lydia then looks around quietly while Nick and Andy think to themselves. She then asks them if they trust her in the game, and Nick says of course. She's giving them critical information that could save their lives. Lydia then tells them she has always been here for them ever since they came together for the Renee vote. The only reason they are such huge targets is because they suck at forming alliances. They are always around Jed, the one person people cannot fully trust. It even gets to the point where Omar doesn't trust them as much as he's letting off. In confessional, Lydia says she's about to do something unthinkable. It's something on a much more advanced level, one that nobody would even think to do. She is going to make a selfish move that will only benefit herself rather than her alliance as a whole. Lydia then tells Nick that he might be surprised to hear this, but he needs to play that idol for Andy tonight. Not himself. Andy makes a confused face and Nick breathes out heavily. Andy then asks her why, and Lydia explains how Omar just lied to their faces to make sure that if their idol was to be used, it would be used on the wrong person. Andy is getting 5 votes tonight. Andy then tells Nick this is starting to make a lot more sense now because he saw what happened yesterday when they arrived to a camp full of people. Lydia nods and says his read is right. They were all discussing voting Andy out to keep Natalia, so Natalia knew all along that she wasn't going anywhere. In confessional, Nick says he doesn't know what to do anymore. His head feels like it's going to explode. Can he trust Lydia with all of the information she just gave him? It's like she's playing 5 chess games at once. Should he use his idol on himself or on Andy? The one thing he knows is true is that Jed is a rat. The information of him having an idol is out there because of Jed, so maybe it makes sense to trust Lydia tonight. One wrong move and his whole game could fall apart. He could even get himself sent home if he's not careful. It's night 10, and Millennials arrive at Tribal Council and sit in their seats. Justin welcomes them back for their 4th Tribal Council now, so he turns to Lydia first and asks her if this tribe has gotten used to losing now. Lydia laughs and says it essentially turned into the norm for this tribe to come back here round after round. Jed then comments how they can never catch a break from tribal council, even while on a whole other tribe. Justin then asks Jed if perhaps that means they are cursing this tribe, and Jed says it very well could be. Hopefully there's more to it than just a curse, though. Justin then asks Rhea if this tribe is now completely over the whole idea of keeping the tribe strong challenge-wise, and Rhea says she doesn't really know what the criteria is necessarily about at this point. If she had to guess, it's more about working with people who can be trusted rather than thinking about how this tribe will win challenges. Nick then adds that they are 5 rounds into this season, so a swap is bound to happen. Perhaps even tomorrow. Justin then asks Natalia if it's fair to assume that this could be their last tribal council as a millennial tribe, but Natalia says she doesn't really care because she knows her time might be up tonight. She has been told she is going home, so she has accepted that fact and is ready to head out. Justin then asks Kendi if he's aware of this, and Kendi says it's generally thought that Natalia is on her own while the other 7 of them are in this together. Like Nick said, tomorrow could be the swap, so they need to be a united group after tonight. Justin then asks Andy if this means Natalia is going home in a unanimous vote, and Andy says that nothing can be certain. They can assume this vote will go one way, but it could always go a whole other direction. Lydia agrees and says that people have the ability to do anything they desire. If people wanted to vote her out, they could do it and she'd never see it coming. Same with any other person. The only people ever protected are the people with guaranteed immunity. Justin then says he wonders if perhaps idols have been in discussion yet, and whether someone in danger could have won or not. Natalia smirks and says she would love to have an idol, but that's just not the reality tonight. Nick then says he just found it interesting how she went into the jungle last night to look for one and took forever to come back to camp. Natalia then shrugs and says she appreciates him thinking she's capable of finding an idol, but she truly came up empty-handed. Justin then asks Jed if there is any fear about Natalia having an idol tonight, and Jed says no. She has felt extremely deflated tonight and she seems ready to leave. It's obviously a shitty position to be in, and nobody wishes her game had to end this way. Natalia then says it is what it is. At least she can be reunited with Renee and go on shopping trips with her. Justin then says this might be a good time to get to the vote, so everyone prepares.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Nick is playing his hidden immunity idol tonight, and he is playing it for Andy. Any votes cast against Andy tonight will not count. I'll read the votes. First vote. Andy. Does not count. Andy does not count. Andy does not count. Andy does not count. That's 4 votes Andy, all do not count. Jed. That's 1 vote Jed. Natalia. 1 vote Jed, 1 vote Natalia, 2 votes left. Lydia. We're tied. 1 vote Jed, 1 vote Natalia, 1 vote Lydia, 1 vote left. 5th person voted out of Survivor Millennials vs Gen Z. Jed.
Jed laughs out loud while everyone else looks around, and Natalia scoffs and says she cannot believe she's still here. Jed then tells Nick and Andy that while their move doesn't make sense, they ultimately still respect it. Nick apologizes and says they needed to make this move, and Jed says it's totally okay. Rhea then turns to Lydia and asks how Nick even knew about the plan, and Lydia shrugs in response. Jed then puts their torch down next to Justin and watches their torch get snuffed. They then look back at everyone else and says it was an honor to play this game with them, and everyone says goodbye as they walk out. Justin then turns to the rest of the tribe and lets them know that if they thought they survived by the skin of their teeth tonight, they should think again. They will need to vote out another member tonight. Hidden immunity idols can still be played after the vote, but nobody can vote for Andy as their protection from the immunity idol transfers to this vote. They'll have about 2 minutes to discuss before they vote. With that, Nick immediately looks at the rest and begs them to keep him. He knows what Jed was up to tonight in trying to vote Andy out, and now Jed is gone. Andy backs this and says that Jed was a stupid mess that caused this tribe to be divided in the first place, and they should believe it in how the votes played out. 2 votes were on Jed, and those 2 votes came from himself and Nick. Nick then says that if any of them have any doubts about their loyalty, he can assure them there's no trust lost. He knows what Jed has done to create this divide, but it's smart for them to come together as a 6 for this upcoming swap. Lydia then asks Natalia if she voted for her tonight, and Natalia nods. Lydia asks why, and Natalia says that Jed told her. Lydia then tells her that's crazy that she ended up trusting Jed's word over anyone else's, after repeated discussions that Jed could not be trusted. Natalia apologizes to Lydia and says she was doubtful that she was even staying in the first place, so she thought Jed, Nick, and Andy were voting for her as well. Lydia then turns to Rhea, Kendi, and Omar, letting them know she doesn't feel comfortable keeping Natalia anymore. She just ruined any trust they tried to build with her. Nick then tells them all that they need to think about their games going forward. If they plan on beating the 10 Gen Z currently in this game, this tribe needs to be united. Natalia will turn into a Gen Z if she makes it to a swap. Natalia shakes her head and says they shouldn't listen to Nick, but Lydia says she just doesn't believe her after what she just did with her vote. Omar and Kendi look at each other while Rhea looks at Lydia, whispering to her if she's sure about this. Justin then tells everyone that their 2 minutes are up, so without further ado, it's time to vote again.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote. Natalia. Natalia. That's 2 votes Natalia. Lydia. 1 vote Lydia. Natalia. 3 votes Natalia, 1 vote Lydia. Sixth person voted out of Survivor Millennials vs Gen Z. Natalia.
Natalia exhales and gets up while Nick and Andy look at the rest, thankful that they all voted together. Lydia looks ahead and smiles, while Omar tells Nick and Andy that they better stick to this group of 6. Nick says there's no swaying from the 2 of them, and Omar says he will believe them. Natalia then sets her torch next to Justin and watches him snuff it. She then makes her way out while the rest watch her leave in silence. Justin then tells the remaining 6 that they don't have to worry about any more twists tonight, so they can start making their way back to camp. Everyone then gets up and starts heading out, and Nick tells Andy he can't believe they got out of this tribal alive. Next time on Millennials vs Gen Z, you might have thought that both Jed and Natalia were out of this game, but what Justin did not reveal is that the second vote of the night was a fake elimination. While Jed is officially the 5th person out of this season, Natalia is not going anywhere except to a brand new tribe, the Gen Z tribe. Will Natalia's surprise appearance be taken well, or will people see her as a person who can be tossed away at the next vote? Plus, how will the Millennials stick together as a 6 after the insane double tribal that just went down? Will Lydia be able to hide the fact that she was behind this whole thing? Find everything out on the next episode. Jed's final thoughts. Jed is super happy they got to challenge themselves and play the game of Survivor out here in the Amazon. It was a crazy experience going to every single tribal council of the game so far. Ultimately, tonight wasn't their night to continue on, and it is what it is. Nick and Andy made a questionable move, though maybe there is more behind it than what's on the surface. At the moment, this whole tribe is destined to lose to these 10 other Gen Z, but if anyone from this group were to win, it would be Rhea because she's flying under the radar big time and she's very eloquent when she speaks to people. She'll definitely get far.